Okay, good afternoon to everybody. This lecture is dedicated to the memory of Gregor Nicolis and his investigation of the Bray-Liebowski oscillatory reactions. But let us start from the beginning. In 1921, William Bray published his results obtained during investigation of hydrogen peroxide decomposition into the acid solution of iodide. In this publication, Bray analyzed the exotic property of hydrogen peroxide to be both the oxidizing and reducing agent in the same reaction system. In this system, there are numerous intermediate species such as iodine, iodide, hypoiodous acid, iodous acid, I2O, and so on. Consequently, this reaction is not simple. This is a very complex reaction. And he obtained non-monotonic evolution of reactive species. In particular, he obtained a stepwise form of oxygen evolution and periodic oscillatory evolution of iodine. Later, the oscillatory evolution of iodide is also obtained by potentiometric method, whereas stepwise decomposition of hydrogen peroxide was obtained by spectrophotometric methods. These two methods did not exist at the time when Bray was performed his experiments. Hermann Liebowski continued to work with Bray and even after him. Therefore, this oscillatory reaction is now known as the Bray-Liebowski one. Here, I shall try to present you several exotic experiments that you see how the system is complex. Here you have some experiments performed under batch conditions in a closed reactor when the control parameter was the initial concentration of hydrogen peroxide. You can see evolution of the oscillatory dynamic states. Here, you have only one part of one experiment under batch condition where you can see the evolution, the transition of the system from regular oscillatory dynamic state to the chaotic state. Here on the right side, you have experiment done in open reactor. Here, the control parameter was the temperature. In the first case, you can see regular periodic oscillations. In the third case, you can see periodic oscillations, but of the form of the mixed mode form. And in the last case, we have stable, steady state. In the second, fourth, and fifth case, we can see different kind of chaotic oscillations. Here is one more experimental result. You can see transformation of the dynamic state from the stable steady state through different kind of intermittent oscillations to regular oscillatory dynamics. On the right side, you have bifurcation diagram obtained for this system. As I said, from stable state to regular oscillation, and between them we can see chaotic states. Here is one more case of intermittent oscillation. Here you can see even one more case of intermittent oscillations. It is very difficult to obtain them, and then I wanted to present them. The researcher, when they get so nice experiments, they always like to explain them. It was the case with the Bray also. And in this, his first publication, he said that in this reaction system must be at least 3 reaction pathways. Pathways are in which Hydrogen peroxide is a reducing agent. Pathway O, in which hydrogen peroxide is oxidizing agent, and pathway D, when we have the composition of hydrogen peroxide, the direct decomposition. If the rate of reaction A is equal to the rate of reaction O, then we are dealing with monotonous decomposition. If the reaction rate of the process R is larger or lower than the one, the O, periodically, then we are dealing with the oscillatory decomposition. Here you can see the periods in which dominate a reaction pathway R or O. In 1987, G. Schmitz offered simple model for the Brey-Liebkowski reaction without any direct autocatalytic step. By this model, the regular periodic oscillations can be successfully simulated. However, for mixed mode oscillation and chaos, at least one additional reaction step had to be added. At that point, Gregor began to work with us. The variants of the model are presented in the next slide. You can see the basic model proposed by G. Schmitz is here in a red frame. You can see 6 reactions where 3 of them are reversible ones. Model with 1 more reaction is in the green frame, and model with 8 reactions are in the blue frame. Gregor was co-author of the model with 8 reactions. With this model, having 8 reactions, we were able to simulate almost all experimentally obtained results. Later, we found that the model with the first 6 reactions and only 8 to 1 can also simulate almost all experimentally obtained results. This model is presented here, just the same reactions without reaction 7. We applied stoichiometric network analysis of all the variants of the model, since this is a powerful method for systematic examination of the models of the complex reaction systems, identification of underlying reaction pathways, and stability analysis of the dynamic states. What is interesting for you, the author of this method is Bruce Clark, the person who was in Brussels 1 year in 1977-1978. Using this method, we analyzed a whole model of 8 reactions and obtained that there are 4 manners to reach the state, the reaction pathway D. There are 3 manners to obtain reaction pathway R and 3 manners to obtain reaction pathway O. If we consider the model without reaction 7, all green pathways disappear, and then we have a model that has 2 manners to obtain a reaction pathway D, 3 manners to obtain the reaction pathway R, and only 1 manner to obtain reaction pathway O. Numerical solutions of the Brey-Liebkowski oscillatory dynamics obtained by this model is presented in the next slides. Here you can see the time evolution of the system in a closed reactor or under patch conditions. You can see stepwise form of hydrogen peroxide decomposition and stepwise form of oxygen evolution, and also oscillatory dynamics of iodine and iodide. Here are numerical simulations obtained under open reactor conditions. You can see here time evolution of the system and different states that appears. Here you can see also two different dynamic states, but presented in the 3D diagram where iodine and hydrogen peroxide concentrations are presented at the axis. In this case, we are dealing with mixed mode oscillations, whereas here we are dealing with the chaos. But I want to underline that the difference between these two states is very, very small. You can see the specific flow rate is here finished with 74 and here with 77. All other is same. Here is one more case of chaotic state, which is obtained by this model. And here are the results obtained for the intermittent oscillations. You can see different kinds of intermittent oscillations. In the first case, we have regular large amplitude oscillations and chaotic appearing of the low amplitude oscillations. And in the second case, we have chaotic appearing of both kind of oscillations, like as it happened in our experiments. You can see here regular appearing of large amplitude oscillations and chaotic appearing of low amplitude oscillations. And in the second and fourth case, we have chaotic appearing of both kinds of oscillations. These results are obtained in collaboration with all my colleagues from University of Belgrade, but also with Guy Schmitz and Gregor Nicolis from Université Libre de Bruxelles. We hope that you can see that Gregor, as the great person and scientist, had an important role in realization of new variants of the model for the Brayli-Epkowski reaction, able to simulate almost all dynamic states and related bifurcations between them. The model resulted in collaboration between Brussels and Belgrade researchers. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ljiljana. It's very, very nice to see really how powerful the research of Grégoire Nicolis was. I personally did not even know that he had contributed to the model, so very nice of you to remind us. So are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
The chaotic attractor that you showed is very similar, very close to the famous Rössler one. Can you say anything about, are the equations similar? I've forgotten all my chemistry courses. I'm a chemist, but I don't talk about chemistry now. I talk about the shape of the chaotic attractor and the similarity with the Rössler's model. Rössler's model, which is a 3-variable model.
Oh, no, this model is not 3-variable. This is 5-variable model. Since we have...
Very close, the shape is very similar to the Rössler one. You don't have any explanation on that.
I can tell you that this is, the results can look like one another. This is not surprise, because actually a 3-variable model can give different dynamic states. And if you have more than 3-variable systems, then you can get very similar dynamic states. And what is very important, we cannot see the 4th and 5th dimension of this evolution of the system. This is problem. And when I presented the results, I presented the one in 3 dimensions, not in 5 dimensions.
Oh, I see. Because if it is the case, actually, one can think of reducing the number of variables to 3.
No, we didn't reduce them.
No, I'm not talking that you
Okay.
had to, but one can think that it would be possible to reduce this in a 3-variable model.
But this is always possible, but this is not the aim of our investigation. We are working on the very large models, even the biological models. And we are happy that we can apply this stoichiometric network analysis on this model, since this method is not restricted to 3 dimensions or finally on 4 dimensions. It can work on 10 dimensions model. This is very important detail. And we don't try to put the model on the lower level. If we can analyze the same model by the method which work on the level of 5 or 10 dimensions. But normally, this which you saw is one kind of 3-dimensional projection of our system.
Well, I'm thinking from the point of view of physics now, because in physics, one tries to reduce the model as you can. So that's why there are mathematical tricks, for instance, an adiabatic approximation. I'm not talking that the chemistry is not correct, it's correct, but this is a curiosity. Thank you.
Katie, but I want to add something. We already did and can to reduce the model on the 3 variables. But then we have in this reaction model cubic autocatalysis or something like this. In this model now, there is no this kind of reaction. All reactions are chemically real. Without cubic autocatalysis or autoinhibition or anything like this. This is the advantage of this modeling.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Any other question? Well, if not, thank you, Ljiljana, again. And maybe you can stop.
I must stop. Yeah, stop share.